Today we are going to be making this camera cage that holds the camera. We will be breaking it down, putting the attachments on, camera on, and putting it back together just to see how everything works and see everything working how I intended it to. So, first thing first, we are going to take off these screws. And these screws are the exception to everything else. Everything else is like a tripod screw, which is 1/4 thread. These are for the arms because I ordered the wrong parts. These are M6. But assuming you order the correct parts, 1/4 would definitely fit in these holes. I ordered the wrong parts for the threaded inserts, which I was trying for the first time. So that's why there's M6 screws in attaching the cages. But if I were doing it again, and when I'm going to reprint the arms eventually in the future, or if I need to, I will order the correct parts and everything will be 1/4 inch thread to keep it consistent. So the main cage is 2 things of the bases and 2 arms. And like we saw, those screw together to make the main part. But I find that sometimes, because my right arm and right hand can be awkward sometimes, that adding the attachments sometimes before putting the screws in, because those are generally for me easier. Putting the attachments in first and then piecing it together makes it a lot easier for me. So first I'm going to show you how we attach, well actually, what am I trying to say? What these pieces are for. The one for the bolts has a 4mm cavity, because that way I can attach the hex head in there, and my bolt will be perfectly flush. The nut ones have a cavity for a 5.4mm height nut, and those are basically, I decided on those because of the nuts and bolts I picked up. I know there's a workaround way in Prusa Slicer to easily adjust these, the height that you need, by cutting it right at the, for the bolt, right at the 2 millimeter mark, and then undoing the constraints and upping the height of the bottom, but then it puts everything to the bed, so then you have to rotate them sideways, piece them together, merge them, and it's a lot of work, but it comes out with a great product. Or the easier one, you can cut the bottom and resize that. You have a washer. So now that I have the handle for holding the bolts a little bit easier in my hands, I align them so that the flat sides are even, so that way I know that the bolt will go in the cavity. And while you can press them if your grip strength is strong, I always find it easier to use a vice grip like this. Grab onto the bottom, grab onto the bolt, press, rotate, press, rotate, press, rotate, press. Excuse me for one second. Alright, I'm back now. Loud coughs and water. And just keep rotating. You won't have to do it that much, but I always do it more than enough because I want it to be perfectly flush on all sides. And now you have your hex bolts with an attachment that makes them a little bit easier to hold and twist for my hands. Same thing with the bolt. This one is much easier, and I mean, same thing for the nut. This one is much easier. This one might actually be able to press in better, but I still take it for a round on the vice grip so that everything is pressed in there flush. So now I'm deciding that this is going to be my base for my camera. Normally, I would use the camera that I'm recording on right now, but this is my old camera that actually doesn't work because the SD card slot is absolutely broken, and it would take a couple $100 to fix it. So I just used that money to buy a new camera, but it works for this video. This part is totally optional. I just like putting it in here so the camera can go on it, and it looks cleaner in my mind and gives a more flat base. These have the nut in them also. These will just, if we don't want to put the nut right there, right in here, if we need space, we can take this. That adds a couple millimeters so that our thread height once we twist it all in is a lot less than it would be if we did it no base, just did it like this. That's too high for what we need for my tripod. And this part, I'm not 100% crazy about, because it does have a tendency, when it's not bolted down, to slide, which that's just how it is. It's not totally necessary. This is another reason why I like putting the camera on beforehand, because it allows me a lot more freedom to move it and spin. Another reason I don't like I go back and forth on loving and not liking the base right here, is because it makes a lot of noises that I think are from my camera sometimes, and I'm always paranoid about every little noise. We're gonna have to loosen this up back up just to slide it over just a little bit. Now we can tighten it back up. We will see. Did you hear that pop? That's just the base, which is totally unnecessary, but it does give a nice, not much cleaner look when it's all put together. But I don't know if I'm gonna keep it. How the arms will work is we want the camera pointing out from the divots or arms that will point back at us. So we do kind of have this done. We also could, instead of using this space, which I like because it helps you slide it better if it's if it's not tightened up all the way, we could also put one of these cold shoe things at the bottom if we want to add our mic down there. But we're going to put this aside right now. And this will be our top, where we are going to put our attachments if we want to add an extra phone, if we want to add cold shoe for flashes or microphones, or if you want to just add normal threads for our GoPro or any attachments we might have. So I'm going to, because I didn't do this before, I am going to put in my GoPro holder thing. Oh, by the way, this case is also found on Printables. It's a very nice case for your GoPro. Highly recommend. So, like I was saying before, I'm sorry if it's so scattered. It's sometimes my brain doesn't let me say things clearly, but that's just how it is after surgery. So we can actually probably put that aside and give it a little bit cleaner. These flat attachments are basically like the base plate, but for individual attachments. These slide a lot better and easier. So our first attachment, we are going to need another one of these spacers to give us a little bit extra size. We're just gonna clip this in, and now we are going to take our screw, and because we've already pressed in our nuts, just like we do with these, we can also do with these. Now we are just going to twist it in, and we have to align it. So I find that once we align, this will hold in better. The inside slot is 6 millimeters, so it will loosen up over time, but I do have it so that everything is tight for the first couple times that you put the thread in while you're still, I guess, cutting the threads. I like that because if you're not fully in, it holds it more securely, and it also gives a lot less freedom when your attachments are on if you haven't tightened them up all the way. So this is just, now that we have our bolt, our riser thing, our flush mount, we can just add an attachment like this. So now we could have our GoPro on top, recording B-roll for our camera. Same thing with maybe a phone connector. Same thing. B-roll, C-roll, just extra spare videos, or maybe you want to sync your videos together. I don't have a bunch of attachments for the phones yet, but I do have an idea that in the future I might take all the old iPhones that I have and see if I can have I think I have like 5 or 6 of them, and have them all record video so that you can have a seamless, I guess, panorama type video, assuming I can get the heights of everything, all the cameras in the perfect alignment, and get them so that they perfectly align or overlap in the actual video taking, and then I'll stitch them together. So if we wanted to do the same thing, but instead of this top, we have, we'll take a cold shoe with the nut on it, and we want to just tighten it up so that our cold shoe can go on. Now we have an easy enough external flash for when we put it on the camera. We could also put a microphone up here, monitor, basically any attachment that we do have. So I'm going to move this to the side. I'm going to start building the attachments that I want for when we put the cage finally together. Oh. And I will mention that most of this stuff will not be as fiddly for you. I have problems with my hands, and this is not a great hour for me. So even at bad hours, the fact that I have designed this so that I can still use this no matter what time, it might just be harder. It is nice for me because sometimes I struggle with the camera. We're gonna take the GoPro on here right now. We can slide this over so that we can attach this to our mount and tighten this on our hot shoe. Now we reposition our GoPro and our flash and tighten this flash up too, which I went the wrong way. So now it would look a lot cleaner if we just put our microphone up here, but I generally have my flash to the side so that I'm not directly putting light on to myself like this, where if I was filming the nuts right here, I want to do this, I would do that so that the indirect light seems to, in my opinion, seems to come off a little bit better. I know I'm probably forgetting something because I always do and remember it after, but now we have our attachments and our camera setup. Now we can put together our actual cage. So these I have put metal inserts, but an earlier version has just the hole for the plastic where you will take your screw and cut your own threads in there. The only benefit of having the metal threads is if you take it down and collapse it like I do, sometimes the plastic threads will wear out over time, and if you try to tighten them too much, you will wear out your threads and sometimes cut new ones. So another benefit is it makes these going much easier. I'm just gonna put them until I feel a little bit of movement, and then I'll work on the other one. And I'll bring these screws out, or whatever. And like I said before, there will be a lot of less clunkiness and hitting of objects for the majority of people. I sometimes struggle. So we can position our arms freely, and we can found it. Now we actually can do what we were going to do a couple of minutes ago, where we put a screw in and we forgot to take this out. Again, not going too tight. And now this last one, get mine. We tighten until we feel a little bit of pressure, and now we have our cage all put together. Where the reason I made this is because I struggle with holding a camera with my right hand. So if I want to, assuming there was a once here, if I wanted to hold it, I wouldn't have as comfortable a grip, and I wouldn't have as easy of time holding video and moving. But with this, it gives me the option to not only worry about having one hot shoe, I can have multiple accessories and still pan and tilt freely. So it's a great accessibility tool.